Waking up at 4:30 a.m. always seemed like one of those extreme habits reserved for elite athletes, military officers, or wildly successful entrepreneurs. You see it in productivity videos, hear it in motivational speeches, and read it in biographies of high achievers. The idea that waking up before sunrise could change your life is not new, but I had never truly attempted it myself, until now. For 1 week, I committed to waking up at 4:30 a.m. every single day to see if it would actually make a difference in how I felt, how much I accomplished, and whether it could become a sustainable habit in the long run. I wanted to know whether those early morning hours held any hidden magic or whether it was all hype. The first night before I was scheduled to wake up at 4:30 a.m., I tried to go to bed early. I knew that without enough sleep, waking up that early would be counterproductive. I turned off my phone by 9 p.m. and tried to relax, but my mind was racing with thoughts about whether I'd hear the alarm, whether I'd regret this decision, and how tired I'd be. I didn't fall asleep until closer to 10:30 p.m., giving me barely 6 hours of sleep. When the alarm went off the next morning, it felt brutal. The room was pitch dark, and my body begged me to stay in bed. But I got up. I shuffled to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and made a cup of coffee. I didn't feel energized. I felt foggy, sluggish, and disoriented. But I was awake, and that was a start. By 5 a.m., I was sitting at my desk with my laptop open. The house was dead silent. No notifications, no distractions, no obligations. That part felt nice. I wrote in my journal for a few minutes, just to reflect on what I was doing. I listed out a few tasks I wanted to get done, and decided to dive into a side project I'd been putting off for weeks. By 6:30 a.m., I had already written 1,000 words, cleaned out my email inbox, and even done some light stretching. That was more than I usually accomplished by 10 a.m. As the rest of the house began to stir around 7 a.m., I felt a strange satisfaction knowing that I had already carved out a productive morning. But the fatigue set in fast. By 9 a.m., my energy was crashing, and I was reaching for a second coffee. I took a walk around the block, hoping the fresh air would help. It did, but only temporarily. The rest of the day, I felt like I was playing catch-up with my own exhaustion. The second day was slightly better, if only because I fell asleep a little earlier. This time I was out by 10 p.m., so I got a solid 6.5 hours of sleep. Still not ideal, but manageable. The 4:30 a.m. alarm was still painful, but less shocking. I noticed that having a clear purpose helped. The previous night, I had made a to-do list of exactly what I wanted to do in the morning, so I didn't waste time deciding once I was up. That morning, I read for 30 minutes, meditated for 10, and then worked on a freelance writing assignment that I'd been procrastinating on. By 7 a.m., I had already invoiced a client and finished a full draft. That sense of accomplishment gave me a surprising confidence boost throughout the day. It's strange how the early success of the morning carried over into everything else. I was more patient, more present, and even more optimistic. By the third day, my body started to adjust. I woke up just before the alarm, which shocked me. I felt groggy but not in agony. The air was cool, the sky was dark blue fading into soft orange, and there was something peaceful about being awake before the world was. I lit a candle, made tea instead of coffee, and journaled about how I was feeling. The introspection came easier in those quiet hours. There were no distractions, no social media updates, no emails flooding in. It was just me and my thoughts. That morning I decided to go for a short jog around 5:30 a.m., and the neighborhood was completely empty. I hadn't seen the world in that state in years. It felt like I was in a secret club with the sunrise. The day went by smoothly, and I noticed I was less reactive to stress. Even when unexpected work came up or plans changed, I handled them with more grace. I had already carved out time for myself, so I didn't feel resentful about giving my energy to others later. However, by day 4, the novelty wore off a bit. I started to feel the effects of mild sleep deprivation. My brain was a little slower, and I had to reread things multiple times to focus. Even though I had gone to bed at 9:45 p.m. the night before, it wasn't enough. It became clear that waking up at 4:30 a.m. doesn't magically add more hours to your day. It just shifts them. If you don't protect your bedtime, you're going to pay the price. That day, I ended up needing a nap around 2 p.m., which threw off my work schedule. It made me realize that early mornings only work if the rest of your schedule aligns. You can't just pluck 4:30 a.m. out of nowhere and hope the rest falls into place. It requires a systemic change. Bedtime, nutrition, screen time, and evening habits all matter. Day 5 was the first day I genuinely enjoyed waking up that early. I had gone to bed at 9:30 p.m., turned off all screens by 8:30, and read a book before falling asleep. That night, I slept deeply and woke up feeling refreshed. For the first time, 4:30 a.m. didn't feel like punishment. It felt like a choice. I brewed coffee, wrote in my journal, and sat in silence for a few minutes before starting my work. I noticed how much mental clarity I had. The work I did from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. was high quality and efficient. I wasn't distracted, I wasn't stressed, and I wasn't in a rush. That state of flow felt amazing. I finished all my critical tasks by noon and had the afternoon free to relax or work on creative hobbies. It made me realize that the early morning hours are not just quiet, they're sacred. You think differently in that time. Your brain is not yet overwhelmed by inputs, and your thoughts are more original, more grounded. The quality of time at 5 a.m. feels different from the same hour at 5 p.m. On day 6, I decided to experiment with doing a workout first thing. I went to a 5 a.m. fitness class at a gym nearby. The streets were still dark, and it felt like I was doing something secret and powerful. The gym was quiet, mostly filled with other early risers who seemed locked into their routines. There was a strong sense of discipline in the room, and it rubbed off on me. After the workout, I felt alert, focused, and proud of myself. I realized that stacking positive habits in the early morning, like exercise, reading, or journaling, creates a momentum that shapes the rest of your day. That day, I tackled a difficult task I had been avoiding for weeks. I had the energy and the mental strength to deal with it head-on, and I think part of that came from the confidence built during the morning hours. Still, by evening, I felt the need to wind down earlier than usual. My body was adjusting to this new schedule, and I didn't want to sabotage it. By the final day, the experience had transformed from a challenge to a lifestyle experiment. I was still waking up at 4:30 a.m., but now it felt natural. My body woke up with the alarm, and I even felt a bit of excitement to see what I could accomplish in the early hours. I looked back over the past 6 days and saw a noticeable improvement in my productivity, my mood, and my clarity of thought. The biggest surprise was not how much more I got done, but how different I felt mentally. I wasn't rushing through my days anymore. I felt like I was leading them. There was a sense of ownership over my time that I hadn't felt in a long time. I was creating my day rather than reacting to it. However, I also had to be honest with myself. Waking up at 4:30 a.m. is not a magic solution, and it's not for everyone. If your job keeps you working late, if you have kids who wake up at night, or if your natural sleep rhythm leans toward night owl tendencies, this habit could backfire. What matters more than the exact time you wake up is how intentionally you use your first few hours. Whether you wake at 4:30 a.m. or 7:30 a.m., what defines your day is what you do with that time. That said, there is something undeniably powerful about the early morning hours. They're quieter, calmer, and more spacious. They allow you to do deep work without interruption, to reflect before the world bombards you, and to start the day with a sense of victory. After a week of waking up at 4:30 a.m., I learned that the habit is not about productivity alone. It's about presence. It's about starting your day on your own terms. It's about carving out space to think, to create, to move, and to breathe before the demands of life take over. For me, it was worth it. Not because I got more done, but because I felt more in control of my life. I may not wake up at 4:30 a.m. every single day moving forward, but I now understand the value of owning my mornings. Even waking up an hour earlier than usual, with intention, can transform your mindset and your momentum. It's not about chasing perfection. It's about creating rhythm, structure, and purpose. And for that reason alone, I'd say yes, it was worth it.